Okay, I'm back, and so is my throat congestion and dryness. Okay, we'll start the second part of this cliche list with the character has to apologize even though they didn't do anything wrong. You know, there are those joking memes like, oh, so-and-so did nothing wrong. We're talking about people who literally did nothing wrong, but for some reason the plot compels them to apologize. There was a movie I saw on a channel. This woman worked for some greedy corporation and they wanted to do something in this small town, so she was told, hey, go to the town and scout it out. So she went to the town, and if I recall correctly, they weren't all that friendly with her at first, but they knew she worked for the place, so she wasn't keeping it a secret. Well, she fell for the town and its people, and they were friendly to her after that. Make of that what you will, whether you think it's understandable or if they were in the wrong. Well, in like the last half hour, the guy from the corporation came and he was talking about the girl working for him, and suddenly everyone just dropped her like a hot potato, like, oh, she was the most horrible person, and the love interest wasn't interested in her anymore. Well, both sides talked with their friends, and the love interest came to meet her, and she apologized to him. He didn't apologize to her for misjudging her, assuming the worst about her, being cold to her. No, she had to apologize for him. To him. She had to apologize to him. I thought, why are you apologizing? She had done nothing wrong other than be connected with this corporation. And there she was she was being friendly to people in the community and all that. And somehow she's the one who, I think you can tell my disgust and aggravation about this. It's also messed up too, because it's like it's saying, oh, it doesn't matter what you do, it's others' perception of you. Like, you can be doing everything right, but if there's a perception that you're bad, you have to No, don't apologize when you haven't done anything wrong. That really should have been the love interest and other characters apologizing to her for misjudging her. Years ago, I saw on a website, someone pointed out there was also an episode of Pokemon in which Ash had to apologize for something that wasn't his fault. It was the early episode, I think it was called Challenge of the Samurai, which makes it sound much more dramatic than it really was. It was just some snotty kid who dressed up like a samurai. To give some background, there's a caterpillar Pokemon called Caterpie, which turns into this cocoon Pokemon called Metapod, and then finally changes into a butterfly Pokemon called Butterfree. There's also this worm or caterpillar-like Pokemon called Weedle that has a poisonous stinger on its head. It turns into a cocoon form called Kakuna, and then to this bee Pokemon called Beedrill that has poisonous stingers on its front legs. And also a stinger where bees usually have stingers. Well, Ash had weakened also his Caterpie had turned into a Metapod in the previous episode. So Ash was Ash wanted to catch a weedle. He had weakened it, but before he could catch it, the samurai challenged him. And while they were arguing, the weedle crawled away so Ash couldn't catch it. Later, a swarm of bee drill came because the weedle had gotten away and said, "Hey, they're after me," and they formed a posse basically and went after them. Well, people were telling Ash, "Oh, that weedle you led away got it." He didn't let it get away. It got away because the samurai interrupted him in the middle of trying to catch it. Well, Metapod was surrounded by the bee drill, so Ash was trying to protect it, which is good. That shows he really cares about his Pokemon. Ash was telling the Metapod, oh, how sorry he was. This was all his fault. No, it wasn't his fault. Oh, this is the next cliche is another one that ticks me off. And it's when writers either treat women as brainless creatures that are obsessed with men, or they treat men as brainless creatures only obsessed with women. No. There are a whole lot of things I could say about that. People can write thesis papers over everything wrong with that, but no. Just no. People of whatever gender are intelligent, or they can be stupid, either one. There's no gender that's completely stupid or completely smart or completely good or completely bad or anything. Unless it's a stupid joke or you're being self-deprecating, like when Max X did that episode with clips of men acting stupid and said, "It's official, all men are idiots." Or if a comedian, a female comedian, gets up and talks about things, weird things women do, unless it's something like that, it's disturbing. That's another instance when I think it's the writer's own self-inserts or fantasy. Like, oh, if I lived in this world, all the women would be obsessed with me. Or something like that. Normally I don't talk about writer motives and attitudes, but this one I seriously think there's something wrong with any writer who genuinely seems to think that way about the opposite sex. From time to time you hear about a writer who has those sexist plot lines and such, and then you hear they get in trouble for something like, oh, they said something inappropriate to women, or they lied about a man to try and get money or attention or whatever. You think, oh, well, I'm not surprised. I'm not saying shows like that, shows with those kind of treatments of genders create creeps, the kind of creeps you hear about on Reddit and all that. I'm not saying it creates people like that, because I think there are a number of factors, but I think it empowers them. We've seen creepy people. I was at a store one time with my aunt. I forgot why I'd gone on ahead, but she was at the checkout and I was sitting on a bench. All of a sudden, this grinning man just sat down. "Well, I'm going to keep you company," like he were doing me a favor. First off, I'm shy, so I don't like any stranger to come sit next to me. Man, woman, child. If it were a sweet older person, that would be okay. It's like, oh, they just want to rest. Okay. You should ask people first, may I sit down? Because that's a lot of people are shy like me. This guy thought I'd be honored that he was choosing to sit next to me. I just got up and told him, actually, I think my aunt is done, and went over. I looked back and he was glaring at me like you were supposed to play into my fantasy that girls would love for me to be with them. If that happens again, I'm going to say I didn't ask for company and leave. Another thing, have you ever been on the internet, you're having a debate or conversation with someone, and all your points are intelligent and rational, and they just decide to bring gender into it in a derogatory way, like, oh, whatever, you're just a woman, or, oh, you're just a man, how could you know anything? That is evidence that they don't have a point, so the sexism comes out. Like I said, I think they're empowered by things like that. If you're going to have a stuck on himself or herself character, go the Johnny Bravo route, because Johnny Bravo was a great cartoon. He was, I don't know if I'd out and out call him sexist, but he was definitely a male chauvinist. The thing is, he paid for it, though. He was always getting attacked by women, so. Oh, here we go. The next cliche is making selfish brats the heroes of the show. This happens a lot in Dan Schneider's shows. I saw part of an episode of iCarly. They had a stand-in for Disney. Said, oh, Disney's ripping us off. I thought, well, if you mean by Disney ripping you off, they're having annoying brats on the shows, then yes, maybe they are ripping you off, since that's your trademark. Or one of them, I'm not going to get into certain things, and just sticking to topic. They have people that are rude and uncaring and selfish, and we're supposed to root for them and care about them. If the character doesn't care about others, why should I care about them? Why should anyone care about them? Related to that is maybe the protagonist isn't so bad, but they have delinquent friends. They have friends that do bad things, and they just laugh it off like, oh, so-and-so stole a bicycle again, ha-ha. It'd be interesting. I wonder if somewhere there's an iCarly fan fiction set 20 years later, or even 10 years later. Like, hey, what happened to Sam? Oh, she's in prison. She shot someone while trying to steal their car. It's not like Jake the Dog on Adventure Time. They handled that pretty well. It turned out he had a criminal past. It's like, oh, this was where I used to sell stolen goods. Jake? Well, I didn't know it was wrong. So they did that in a funny way. I also made a note here with the delinquent friends and just all around rude characters. There was a movie called Rebel Without a Cause with someone who was rebellious and confused and directionless. I think there are writers who know about that movie but don't understand why it worked, don't really understand anything about it. So there's the joke, rebels without a clue. That's what they have. They're rebels without a clue. You also have to wonder, who is this for exactly? Is this another instance of a writer, gee, I wish I had been able to do these things? Is it appealing to people who go, oh, I'm so misunderstood? I think some of these shows like that are the equivalent of people propping themselves up with puppets. Like, you're the greatest YouTuber ever. You deserve so much. You deserve so much more. You're so underrated. I don't know if I've made my point clear. It's just people doing bad things because the writer secretly oh, well, I should be able to do bad things and get praised for them. Moving on, there's the cliche of people who go through some traumatic experience and either they're not affected at all, there's just an instant recovery and you never know they had experienced trauma, or they go the route, oh, they were so traumatized they were institutionalized for life. See, that cliche was so irritating that even my throat couldn't last during the whole thing. It's just disrespectful and unrealistic. Those are not the only two options. You know, you talk to people in real life who have gone through trauma, and I just guarantee you the majority of them don't fall into either extreme. Because that's what it is. They're just two extremes. There may be people who seem to be unaffected by something, but for all you know, maybe they go home and cry themselves to sleep, or wreck something because they have a tantrum as a result of the emotions being too strong. You can't always know by looking at someone. Some of these people who are such jokesters and are lighthearted all the time may have gone through some serious issues, and they joke because they don't want to be in a negative place anymore. Then there are people who act upset all the time and they have good lives, so you can't tell. I think the only people who would be completely unaffected by a severely traumatic experience are people who have been emotionally damaged in some way. Either they've been through so much tragedy that they've become numb to it, or they just have an issue anyway. Things like that. I know I went over this already, but again, you just want to stress, you can't always look at someone and tell how badly they've been affected. Instead of having an issue where the hero, you have an issue where the hero watches several of his friends get slaughtered. Don't have an issue sorry, I'm rambling. If you have an adventure in which the hero sees their friends get killed, don't have the next issue like nothing ever happened. You could have, it would be better to have it that the hero doesn't seem to be all that affected, but then he or she breaks down I also, as I said, don't like they were so traumatized they were locked up for the rest of their life. That usually doesn't happen. Sometimes people do end up in institutions, but not for the rest of their lives. I don't know how long the average stay is, but like I said, why is it notifications only pop up when I'm making videos? I can wait all day for notifications and it's just... And then when I'm shooting, notification! Hey, there's a notification! There's a notification! Do you want the notification? I wanted the notifications earlier, not... Yeah, you should have the character recovering from the trauma over time and then still having problems now and then. There was an episode of The Facts of Life in which the father of one of the characters passed away. And then the next episode, the character was moping and they noted she was still taking the death of her father hard. See, that's good. That's how it really is. You don't just suffer a loss like that and then, the next day everything's fine. No, that's something you carry with you for a while. There was also an episode of Rocket Power. I know a lot of people don't think much of the show, but I have to applaud this episode, or rather episodes. One episode ended with the main character getting, I think it was a broken leg. I think they actually had to get the helicopter and fly him to the hospital. So, that's what happens in real life. You can get hurt doing stunts you're not ready for, or being careless doing something. Well, the next episode opened up with the boy skateboarding. I thought, oh, come on. But then, no, it turned out it was a home movie he was watching. He still had the broken leg and was watching the home movie in sadness, wanting to go skateboarding again. So I appreciate that they did that they didn't just, here he is all better in the next episode. Unless you do a time skip in which it's months or even years later, don't have the person be completely healed in the next issue or next episode. It's a late addition to the list. And that's the cliche that people with definite beliefs are fanatics. Doesn't matter what kind of beliefs, just if you believe in something, you're a monster according to these writers. No matter how mainstream or obscure, you're a cult member or terrorist something. It's like the only thing safe to have are vague, generic beliefs. It could even be something like what music you listen to or what shows you watch. They decide you're terrible. Like they'll have someone who likes Japanese cartoons like, oh, cool. It's like, they're a pervert serial killer. Why? Because they like anime, and I know some people say anime or anime, manga versus manga. Can we all agree it's annoying when that fan base is painted as terrible? You can ask various groups like gamers, goths, metalheads. You can ask them how they're treated in media. It's not a positive portrayal. The last two are actually from Roger Ebert, but I agree so much. I quote Roger Ebert with a lot of things. He was just a consummate smart aleck when it came to describe describing bad movies and cliches and such. The first is the fatal change of heart. And that's a villain reforms, says, oh, I want to change my ways and join with the heroes and do something good and positive, and then they're immediately killed off. Why do that? What kind of message does that send? I prefer a reformed villain adjusting to a new life, etc., and trying to improve himself or herself. And not just, oh, I'm reforming. If you want to kill a villain and have him be reformed, the way you could do it is have the villain be betrayed by his colleagues, like have them poison him or give him some fatal disease that's sure to kill him. Then have him reflect, or her reflect, whatever you want to do. Have him come to the heroes. So, I was betrayed. I want to help you stop them because they've essentially murdered me. I see now that I was wrong, so I want to spend the rest of my life fighting this group and atoning for what I've done. Do it that way. Then finally, capping the list is the good old idiot plot. Roger Ebert used that term to describe a movie in which there's some plot issue that could easily be resolved if all the characters weren't idiots. Like they make weird assumptions and don't ask questions. It would be so easy, to get this matter sorted out. But no, everyone is an idiot. I'm tempted to give examples, but I'm sure a lot of you could think of some. So, there you have it, a number of cliches I hate. Not much more to say though, except I hope you like my bedroom ceiling. You like that? Part of the way I thought I should have adjusted the camera at a different angle, but it is what it is. So I hope you enjoy the list of cliches. Well, that sounds odd, talking about hate. Oh, I hope you enjoyed, you know what I mean. I hope you enjoyed my talking about these cliches during my drinking water and trying to clear the mucus from my throat and sinuses, and the lovely view of my bedroom ceiling. So, have a blessed day, everybody.